Okay, so good morning, everybody. This is Sharonda, and this is my YouTube channel as well as my podcast, Spiritual Sense. And in this podcast, it's an open social discussion in regards to the paranormal, occult. I speak on things such as out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, soul travel, astral projection, third eye opening. I also discuss topics in regards to hauntings, curses, lost souls, um, demonology, angels, spirit guides, to name a few. Um, and so today, I'm going to do, I also incorporate a tarot card reading into this podcast as well as YouTube channel as well. And so I decided I'm going to get back to speaking on such topics in regards to that. Now, I'd like to start off by saying that this podcast, as well as this YouTube channel, is for what? It's for entertainment purposes. That means that if it just so happens to coincide with what you believe or what you're going through, that may be by chance or even by happenstance, okay? So today is Sunday, which is June the 26th. And today I am going to speak about Lilith. Lilith. Now, if you have been following me or, just so happen to, go back and look at some of my web presentations or even my episodes on my Spreaker Spiritual Sense podcast, I did a topic where I discussed about the Jezebel spirit and my account of what I felt the Jezebel spirit was. And so I also mentioned that a lot of the information that you may read or on various websites, books as such, I think in regards to, as I mentioned, how they mention about, you don't want to speak curses on anything, you don't want to give power to anything of the sort. And I do feel like, in instances such as that, we choose to put things at bay or put things out of our mind or don't entertain certain things because we don't want it to take power or precedence in our lives. Okay. So when you hear things such as folklore, myth, fiction, oftentimes we, just denounce it as, fairy tale, it's not real, it's an illusion. And in a sense, that is true. But I do feel as though it's real in the sense of, and maybe you may not refer to it in that term or in that instances, but that's essentially what it is. So I give you an example as to what I'm talking about. Like, say for instance, most people don't, I'm not going to say most people, many people may not believe in witches. Many people may not believe in witchcraft, but, and I understand, and, being more realistic with it, you may refer to them as a bitch or, something of the sort. But in terms of Lilith, Lilith is real. It's a name that is associated with a demonic spirit, which is known as the Jezebel spirit. And we're going to proceed today with speaking about Lilith and the Jezebel spirit. I did a podcast episode and a web presentation when I mentioned about Lilith, and I mentioned about the Jezebel spirit. I feel as though Lilith is the Jezebel spirit. It is the Jezebel spirit. According to some research that I did previously, Lilith was in certain theological scholar writings was Adam, from the book of Genesis, Adam from Adam and Eve, by way of the book of Genesis, out of the Garden of Eden. She was the first wife of Adam. And let me get this tightened up. Give me just a moment, because every time I get ready to try to do a presentation, it seems like there's always some type of distraction. So bear with me just a moment. Okay. Okay, so it should be better now. Okay. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying. So basically, according to some writings, Lilith was the first wife of Adam. Now, as I mentioned, I did some research, not too much in depth in terms of Lilith and who Lilith was and the Jezebel spirit and things of that nature. And like I said, as I mentioned, this podcast as well as this YouTube channel is for entertainment purposes. I cannot argue with the most advanced scholar. I cannot argue with, your most common, churchgoers, pastors, preachers, or whomever. I cannot argue the Bible with you. I can only go off of what my interpretation of it is in my reality, okay? So I'm not going to, this is not a debate. It's an open discussion. It's not a debate. I give my own account of what I feel certain things are based on my perception of this life experience. And so that's when it became apparent to me that this is a demonic spirit. The first wife of Adam, Lilith, as it's called or named, is a demonic spirit. And if, many people who may have, delved off into demonology or talks on spirits and things of that nature, you may have heard about the witch riding your back or the devil riding your back or the incubus and succubus spirits. And I feel as though this is what her representation is. She's a representation of a demonic spirit. That's what I gather from that. So I am on a website, and I don't like to read things verbatim, but I'm going to read it verbatim. So it you hear a lot of things about mythology and things of that nature, but we associate those terms to denounce or to not give power to that energy, but it is real and it does exist. Okay, so it says that Lilith. Who is Lilith? Well, it says she's known to be the first woman to ever be created, according to many rabbinic texts. It says there are several different perspectives on who Lilith was and why was she so dangerous. There was a hatred towards Adam, Eve, and the ancestor, and is what it mentions here. So she's according to this website, is portrayed as being seductress, dangerous, killer of infants, evil demoness, or a practitioner of witchcraft, who cast vile spells onto men, women who worshipped God. So it's a demonic spirit, is what it is. It's a demonic spirit that has been given a name, is what that is. It says Lilith wasn't originally created to be such a vile being. According to this, legend has it that on the sixth day, man and woman was created. But according to certain research, it said Lilith was the first to be created before Eve was. Okay, so it goes on to speak about when all the animals that was created before Adam, and male and female pairs so Adam could name them. The first man quickly became jealous of the love that each animal parent had. He said to have had attempted to mate with every type of female animal, but was unable to find a particular a partner, I'm sorry, because of the none of the female creatures had been specifically for him. Adam was devastated and complained to, it mentions Jehovah here, that every living creature except for himself had a proper mate. And he implored Jehovah to see his suffering and create a suitable partner for him. Jehovah saw Adam was troubled and decided to answer his prayers by creating woman in the same manner that he had created man. Instead of using pure dust, the woman was made from the fifth and seventh. Let's see. So it says Lilith's terrible attributes and unpleasant disposition is sometimes blamed on this fact. Still, despite being made from impure dust, Lilith was the most beautiful woman to have ever been created. She was known to have been perfect in every manner of appearance. So it goes on and mentions about Lilith, and I guess it was a incompatibility between Lilith and Adam. And because of this discontentment, there was some type of breaking away of that partnership between the two. Okay, so in essence, what it mentions here is that she, he was trying to force her to be something that she did not want to be, and she ran away. According to this folklore here, and as a result, he became enraged and angry. He being Adam. And he sent 3 angels to find her. According to this, it says Senoi, Sensenoi, and Samael. Okay, so as a result of this, she was cultivated by demonic spirits, is what it looks like. The spirits was trying to get her to go back to Adam. She did not want to go. She refuses, according to what this mentions. She had no desire to return back to Adam. And as a result of her disobedience, she was threatened by these demonic spirits, these angels. In other words, she was threatened by them, in a sense. And what it looks like it mentions is that a lot of she bore out a lot of demonic spirits because of this resistance towards Adam and not behaving and doing as she was told. So out came a lot of demonic spirits as a result of that. Um, So it mentions that she did have a child. She had an infant that she bore. And as a result, she was punished by God for being disobedient. For her being disobedient to what God wanted of her, she was punished and cursed by God, is what it mentions here. And through that bitterness, um, it says she begins to resent infant children. She began to resent newborn infant children. And because she was forced to watch her own children die each day, she wishes to force the same sort of pain upon the descendants of Adam and Eve. It is said that Lilith and consort named Nama go to infants in the night and strangle them to death if they are not protected by angelic amulet. So it says Lilith's rage towards children is not limited to humans alone. It is suggested that Lilith is unable to find an infant to kill because they are protected by amulets. She was not above turning against her own children in a fit of rage. So I guess, and when it mentions amulets, I guess what it's saying is, because of the onset of, in the advancement in, healthcare and technology as such, there are ways to um, intercede that demonic spirit to where, children can live or whatever. So basically, Lilith is a jealous Jezebel spirit, is what it is. So says when Jehovah realized that it was necessary to make another partner for Adam because he could not convince Lilith to return, he began to fashion another partner for Adam and allowed the first man to watch her creation. Jehovah used bones, muscles, tissue, blood, and organs to create Adam's new helpmate. This time, Jehovah also ensured that the woman was made from pure dust. When he had finished, the new woman was called the first Eve and was presented to Adam. Even though the first Eve was incredibly beautiful, Adam could not bear to look at her because of his disgust and nausea from watching her be put together. So I guess basically, in a sense, this spirit that came upon him, that he took a liking with, was a demonic spirit. It was an illusion. I feel as though it was an illusion that was visiting him, and Eve was an actual creation, like she was made of flesh, bone, as I mentioned, flesh, bone, blood, and all. But Lilith, I do believe, was a demonic spirit. And so what it mentions that this first Eve, he did not like this first Eve. So then it mentions about third time's the charm, and that's when he put Adam into a sleep state, and then he began to take one of the ribs, and in turn, that's where the Eve that we know now, in the book of Genesis, came into place. So it mentions that she was his bride. She was adorned and jewelry. And by way of that, he was happy. But that happiness, as we know by the book of Genesis, did not last long, because what do we know about in the Garden of Eden? Well, you know, just because he, began to take a liking to her, well, the feelings wasn't mutual, it wasn't reciprocated. So that's where she wandered off to the tree of life, and she began to, according to this here, speak to the evil serpent that entered the Garden of Eden and tempted Adam and Eve into Eden from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, although many in modern day identify this serpent as Satan or Lucifer. There are some ancient texts that claim Lilith was responsible for tempting the two and having them cast out of Jehovah's favor. This raises questions as to whether Lilith is an alternative identity for Satan. So basically, I feel as though Lilith, number one, was a demonic spirit that he was battling. I feel as though it was a demonic spirit that he was battling. I honestly feel as though he, in his sometimes we have a addiction to guilty pleasures, things that we should not do. So it could very well be that this demonic spirit was taking on this this presence, and took on this presence, this Jezebel spirit, in other words, took on this presence and the person. So what I'm from my account thinking of it, and and more trying to think of it in a more logical sense of the matter, could this very well be alters of the same person? Could this very well be alters of the same person? And as I sit here and think, I'm thinking about the movie, The Three Faces of Eve, in the book. It's one of the first books that was 1,000 pages about this that I read in high school, and I really enjoyed that book. Could that very well be what that was? Like, it was the same person, but in different, a different spiritual renewing, a difference in renewing. Because oftentimes, as I mentioned, when you go through your spiritual epiphany and you have been born again and you have been renewed and God put you on your back and he revealed things to you, you will see an alteration even in your physical appearance. You really will. You really will. And I could, in just reading this information, can we say that that's exactly what that is? Like, perhaps that it was the same woman, but, in many facets of herself? Because my account of that is Lilith is the Jezebel spirit. She's a demonic spirit, and that can be inhabited by men, that can be inhabited by women. The witch don't only ride men's back, she rides women's back as well. It's a demonic spirit is what it is. So it says that furthermore, because Lilith had left the Garden of Eden long before Adam and Eve's fall, it is known that Lilith is not subjected to death. The factor likely plays into her being perceived as either a demoness or dark goddess by cultures throughout the world. And I honestly can say that I believe that, and it goes on. This is pretty extensive, but I'm gonna get through it, because this gives me time to kind of give my account on the Jezebel spirit. I feel as though this is the Jezebel spirit. This is the Jezebel spirit. Other implications of Lilith's creation. So it says, there are rabbinic texts that suggest that Lilith was not only the woman made from dust as Adam was. It is suggested that Jehovah tried once again to make a woman from dust as he had with Adam, and that her name was Nama. From Adam's union with Lilith and Nama, it is suggested that all demons were created. Some of the more terrible demons listed are Taba and Ashmodeus. It is known that countless of Lilith and Nama's demon offspring seek to inflict pain and suffering on the descendants of Adam and Eve to this day because of their mother's hatred towards the couple. The texts that record this part of the story suggest that Nama is not as powerful as Lilith, but is always present with the first woman and partakes in the same evil acts. So there's alternate explanations for Lilith's creation. It mentions there are also those who say that Lilith's creation came about in a different manner. These texts claim that while Jehovah had considered making a male and female human, he changed his mind and created one human with a male face on the front portion of the body and a female face on the back portion of the body. After watching this creature struggle to communicate and find happiness, Jehovah changed his mind and separated the two. Adam was kept in the original body facing forward, and Lilith was fashioned out of the female face that had looked backwards. When they were separated, Lilith began quarreling with Adam. She complained that she should not be forced to lie below him to copulate because they had been created from the same body. In her opinion, this made her his equal. The rest of the story falls in line with the existing mythology of who Lilith is and how she came into being. So in other words, this Lilith spirit could very well give an account as to what the coming of Adam, how did Adam come into existence in regards to, the Garden of Eden. In Genesis, it mentions about, God making, creation, the beginning of creation. And I can't remember all of the biblical texts, but, in essence, Adam was made from dust, and then out of the rib was Eve made. And so could that very well be, a writer's depiction written in such a covert manner, meaning, you don't go into the very sketchy details of as to how he was made, but we would know, in this time and space, how babies are born. The many attacks attributed to Lilith because of Lilith's connection to the fall of man and her general dislike and disrespect towards Adam, Lilith has come to be associated with a number of misfortunes and sufferings that are directed towards humans. So the killing of infants, because Lilith refused to give children to Adam by copulating with him in a lower position. Jehovah is said to have punished her by making her watch as 100 of her demon spawns were killed each day. Lilith did not take this punishment lightly and was said to have retaliated by trying to kill any infant that descended from Adam and Eve. So this spirit that we speak on, could this spirit very well be what is presented in this time and space as, abortionist, feminism, and please don't, if anybody may be listening in or whatever the case may be, Planned Parenthood as such, could this very well be under the guidance of the spirit of Lilith? Okay. So it says, according to legend, there are only one thing that could be done to prevent Lilith from taking her revenge. It is known that when she bargained with the angels so that she would not have to return to Adam, she promised to release her power over a child if they were protected by an amulet. that bore the names of the angels that attempted to retrieve her. So in other words, in essence, you know, um, those who are, in this time and space that are here to protect children and babies and infants as such. So you want to stay true to your faith belief because you do have, people here in this time and in this space that can be influenced by that demonic spirit by way of a Jezebel spirit or Lilith. Okay. To do to the contrary is what I feel. It said these angels were named Senoi, Sensenoi, and Semajael. Because of this promise, many newborns were given special amulets to wear that bore these angels' name. The image of these angels was also used on the amulets because it also prevented Lilith from claiming an infant's life. So this very well be, in terms of, medical infirmities, if in the event if someone is, experiencing a pregnancy, an unwanted pregnancy as such, and, as a result, the child, they may be able to detect some type of abnormalities or whatever the case may be. And this is some type of symbol of protection in regards to the medical professionals as to how to take care of this child and protection over the infants. Another practice to protect newborns was to draw a ring on the wall of the room the child was born inside using charcoal. It said inside the ring, the words Adam and Eve, out Lilith, were written. Below these words were the names of guardian angels, Senoi, Sensenoi, and Semajael. In rare cases, it was thought that Lilith was able to sneak into these rooms despite the warnings, perhaps on an obscure technicality, and would approach the children she wished to kill. It was thought that when she fondled the child, the infant would laugh in their sleep. Parents kept a watchful eye over their children to make sure this didn't happen. If it did, they would strike a sleeping child's lip with one finger, a technique that was thought to make Lilith disappear. These precautions were only necessary until the male children reached their 8th day of life and were circumcised, or until female children reached their 12th day of life. So Lilith is a jealous demonic spirit. She's a anti. She's a fierce spirit. I feel. She's against men. She's against women. I mean, there is no respect of person, is what that is. The seduction of men, it said Lilith was not only dangerous because of her wrath towards children, but also for the threat she posed towards men. It has been suggested that Lilith was also known to try to attack grown men in their sleep because of her deep hatred and resentment towards Adam. These myths portray Lilith as going into the night to search for male victims. It was thought that they will only attack men who slept alone, making single men and solo travelers a primary target. According to legend, Lilith would go to the beds of men who slept alone and cause them to sin in their dreams by touching them and causing them to think terrible things. So as I mentioned, when they mentioned about Lilith, and he took a liking to Lilith, I think because of temptation, because of a demonic temptation that he was weak to. When we sleep, oftentimes, we go through the REM, and then the biochemicals released to us and causes us to not act out our dreams. So we're in a state of sleep paralysis. And I think that's when she comes, and is when you are sleeping and you are at your most vulnerable moments. It's hard to fight her. And in essence, that is when she can come in. The spirit is what I'm getting at. can come in and attack. Now, it mentions in reference to men and children. Lilith has no respect of person. I've been visited by Lilith. I think most people have been visited by Lilith, but you may not refer to it as that. You know, you may not want to give power to it. She's so cunning that she will make you feel as though it's coming from you. It's not. Okay, so it says, it appears that forcing men to be led astray by sexual dreams, however, was the least of the threats posed by Lilith and Nama. Now, Nama is the other spirit that the second one that was after Lilith was Nama, and then they proceeded with Eve. So she was the first Eve. Towards grown men, it was thought that Lilith and Nama also had a tendency to suck the blood of the men that preyed on, and were sometimes known to even eat the flesh of their victims. It is thought that this part of the Lilith legend went to inspire the Larnier, or the Lamier, I may not be pronouncing that correctly, who were known for the same type of cannibalism or cannibalization. So they went on to help inspire every vampire and werewolf legend, which indirectly makes Lilith the mother of all vampires. So essentially, I'm going to get to what I mentioned about that. She is a spirit that perpetuates sexual transmitted diseases. That's basically what sums it up. And as we know, what do vampires do? It has a lot to do with the blood and things like that. And many sexual transmitted diseases are transmitted by way of the blood. So that's basically what she is. She is a demon. She's a spiritual demon. She can manifest into our time and space, and we would see it as syphilis, chlamydia, gonorrhea, herpes, genital warts, HIV/AIDS, as such. So that's basically what that depiction of that is when they mention about, her cannibalism and she bites in. Yes, because that's essentially what her reign is. That's her fury. That's her wrath. Remnant texts did not take this part of Lilith's legend lightly. They strongly urged men to be on guard against such attacks and advised them to avoid sleeping alone to protect themselves. So again, it's being biased. Lilith can visit us all. As we know, women get HIV/AIDS. Women get sexually transmitted diseases as well. So don't feel as though Lilith only comes and visits you. Lilith come and visit us all. Many don't want to give power to it, but she is real and she exists. Okay. It said the infertility of women. While it seems that Lilith was not above taking the life of a newborn to cause grief and suffering among the descendants of Adam and Eve, she did not stop there. It was thought that Lilith was also responsible for the suffering of women who were not able to conceive. So though Lilith was not impaired from having children in any matter, it is thought that she sought to cause pain and suffering in all aspects of conception, childbirth, and childhood. The ideal of Lilith causing infertility developed over time, perhaps because of her inability to target infants who were protected by angels, amulets, AMULETS. It makes sense then that Lilith would seek to get around the confines of her promise by preventing certain women from becoming pregnant at all. So it says, was Lilith Adam's first wife or a result of confused history? So it goes on to say, in early years, the passages of rabbinic or rabbinic texts and biblical passages made it clear that the creation of man identified two separate creations of woman. Additionally, it can be determined that the two were not considered to be the same woman because different processes were used to create them. One woman was created at the same time as Adam, while the second one was created from one of Adam's rib. It is thought that the early scholars struggled to identify the first wife of Adam and settled on a demon named Lilith to complete the story. If this is indeed the process that was used to identify Lilith, it could mean that she was not Adam's actual first wife, though she was certainly a fearful demoness. It is important to note that all other knowledge of Lilith, aside from this, remains the same. So I'm going to close this out because it does go in a little further. It says there are stories and biblical passages, origins from Middle East mythology. Of the creation of man has no parallels. It says, but there are some similarities. Okay, so I'm not going to go into all of that, but essentially, when you begin to read a lot of this information, a lot of it is encoded, and you have to get in a mindset to where God will, you'll begin to read between the lines. You'll begin to get an understanding as to how it relates in our time and space. So, because as I mentioned, many things in life, that we hear, fiction, folklore, mythology, and when we hear these words, we just denounce it. We don't want to give power to it because we automatically, make the assumption that it's not real, it's made up and things like that. And I can understand that this is our way of what? Not giving power to that energy. But Lilith is real. She is real. It's a demonic spirit. It's a Jezebel spirit. And as it refers to the incubus and succubus spirit that you would see, in or hear about in different, I don't think they talk about them per se in the Bible. They may do, but they may not say it as such. But many people know what the incubus and the succubus spirit. So for those who may be listening in, I'm going to close out this Spreaker podcast, but there are some YouTube video out there that I've seen. I was going to put in the presentation, but for time purposes, I'm not going to do that. And you could just put Google in YouTube Lilith, Lilith, and it's going to give like a video where it gives a little bit more depiction as to what Lilith is, who Lilith is. In my personal opinion, Lilith is a spirit. She's an altar. And I feel as though, like any other demonic spirit, she's an altar. She can alter your personality. She can alter, many people's personality. I feel like demonic spirits have that capability. And that's why you have to stay grounded and true to who you are, because you could be susceptible to those energies. But that's exactly what that is. It's a demonic spirit. And oftentimes we can be blindsided to where we're not even aware of that. But spirit channeling is real. And I do feel as though she is a demonic spirit. She is. She's a lying, devilish, demonic spirit. Okay? Simple as that, a Jezebel spirit. So with that being said, I am going to close out this YouTube presentation speaking about Lilith, as well as this podcast. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you're more than welcome to comment below. Until then, you have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.